All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We got recurring guests. We got Steve Wyche. We've got reporter, host, analyst at NFL Network, is the co-host of the Huddle and Flow podcast. Steve, is everything going for you?
Everything is well. Happy New Year to you, Zach. But
Appreciate
things
it.
are good. Getting ready for this NFL postseason. So that time of year, man.
I can't wait. I can't wait. We got a game on Nickelodeon. We've got extra wild card games this year. But I think the biggest story right now is this rumor of Deshaun Watson. Apparently, he might not be happy in Houston. I know it's kind of fresh, really. There's not much substance to it, but should he want to exit the Texans, where do you see the most likely landing locations for him?
All right, right now we're really throwing stones in the ocean here, hoping that we can knock out, a shark. I really don't know a whole lot about it, if there's a lot of substance to it. But look, he's coming off of a season where he did great things and the team was no good. He sees kind of the chaos of what happened with Bill O'Brien getting fired, with the structure that they're putting in place now becoming the Patriots South once again. Remember, they went from a Patriots-related GM and head coach to now they're Patriots-related, related team president, and now Nick Caserio being the GM. So he's probably wondering, are we going through this again? Are they going to hire Josh McDaniels and do this whole thing again? So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure he's frustrated, but I want to see who they hire as coach. If it's Eric Bieniemy or someone who Deshaun maybe wants to play for. But look, if you're a team, if he wants to put in a trade in the Texans, who have no first or second round draft pick next year, remember those are with the Dolphins. If they're entertaining trades, if you're a team like San Francisco, if you're a team like the Patriots, if you are Chicago, if you're anybody who has any doubt, if you're the Saints, who Drew Brees, this is his last season, you have got to inquire about this. You have got to find out if this is real, because this is a young quarterback. His contract is already settled. And even though it's a big number, it's a number that's going to be an average number in a year. So you better inquire about a player like him. The Indianapolis Colts, right? If Phillip Rivers decides to call it a day, you better make that phone call. The Atlanta Falcons, he's from that area. You better make that phone call just to see if this is real, and if it is, what it's going to take to get him.
One team, I was looking at the draft order, and there's one team that really jumped out at me that it wouldn't shock me at all to see them make a run at him. If Miami said, we'll give you the number 3 pick, we'll give you Tua, and we'll give you a future first and another second, would they entertain that?
I don't think Miami would entertain. I think
Really?
Miami really likes Tua. Yeah, I think Miami really likes Tua. I think they figure that they're building something for the long term, and that they don't necessarily, as great as Deshaun is, that they don't necessarily want to go ahead and blow this up. Plus, you remember, Tua's on a rookie contract.
Yeah.
If you all of a sudden bring in Deshaun's deal, then that's going to limit you from the roster building that you put in place at the moment. So I don't think the Dolphins would be involved in any type of pursuit of Deshaun Watson.
And what were your thoughts on this whole situation that's unfolding this week with the Browns, with Kevin Stefanski not being able to coach on Sunday night? And apparently there's more. I saw another case pop up today. I don't know if it's related, but I think it was Ronnie Harrison got placed on the COVID list.
Yeah, I mean, I hate it for them. First off, they've been mired in this COVID situation for a month now. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, all their receivers the day before the game got pulled because of the COVID protocol issue. So I hate it for their fans because they waited this long to get to the playoffs. Then they have this breakout, Joel Bitonio, one of their best offensive linemen, if not their best offensive lineman. He's not going to play. The silver lining to all of this is they found out early in the week. So then they could put the plan in place. All of the coaches can figure out what their roles are going to be. They can actually go through dress rehearsals like they're in a play. Okay, let's call in the plays all week. You can get used to my voice. You can get used to the play call. Baker, you can get used to echoing this. Mike Prefer can get used to how he's running the meetings to keep people structured. So at least this isn't a last-minute thing like we saw happen to the Lions earlier this year. This is something that, again, they can work around and they can rally around. The only thing is they're playing a Pittsburgh team that's going to be rested, refreshed, and is going to be very motivated. So that to me might be more of a problem than the actual COVID situation that they're battling.
Do you think Cleveland has a legit chance still, even though, because they beat them last week, but they beat Mason Rudolph?
Yep.
And So even without the coach, you still think they're still in it?
I think they've got a chance because, look, the Steelers are going to put the ball in the air 45, 50 times a game. So if they can get pressure on Ben, if they can get a couple takeaways, you've got opportunities, right? They've got the players and personnel to do it. The only thing is that Steelers defense is so good, and if Cleveland can't run the ball and they become more of a one-dimensional and Baker's got to throw the ball 35-plus times, that's not their formula. Unless, if they can run it, they can get Chubb and Ward going and establish a play-action game, then they've got an opportunity. I am not counting them out at all. The AFC playoff picture is insane. Yeah. I mean, the teams in the AFC from top to bottom all have opportunities to win.
Speaking of the AFC, it's the first AFC game we've got the Bills, who are most likely they're the hottest team in the NFL, going against the Colts. Is there any chance the Colts can play spoiler?
100%. This is the game of the weekend. I mean, the Colts, with the way they're running the ball, with the speed and the ability with the things they can do on defense, this is actually a good matchup for the Colts. Now, the Buffalo right now is a buzzsaw. Josh Allen is playing at such a high level, but you have to hope he keeps his composure. Stephon Diggs, they're saying he's questionable. He's got an oblique injury that all of a sudden popped up. That's kind of a surprise right there. So that if he can't play, that takes them out a lot. I can't see Stephon not playing, or at least trying to play. But they're running the ball well. The rookie Zach Moss has really added kind of that physical punch that this team needs right now. And defensively, they're playing so much better over the past month than they played early. That's why I think they're the favorite, but I'm not counting the Colts out in this game.
And then flipping over to Sunday, we've got the Ravens and the Titans. Do you think Lamar Jackson gets his first playoff win this Sunday?
I do. I think it finally happens. It's not going to come easy. This is going to be a scoring fest as the past couple games have been, because Tennessee's just not stopping anybody. They're playing so poorly now. They know the Ravens. They've played them. They know the scheme a little bit, but what J.K. Dobbins is doing and what they're doing in the play action pass game is out of sight. Their defense now, they've eaten a whole lot of Derrick Henry last year in the playoffs, and I believe it's in week 11 when he hit the 25, 26-yard walk-off overtime touchdown run against them. They're a little fed up, but Tennessee's going to move the ball. And if it's not Derrick Henry, they've got the receiving options. Ryan Tannehill's good enough to play against this defense. I just think it's always one of these last team with the ball is going to win the ball game.
Do you think any of the Ravens, the winner of the Browns or Steelers, have a shot at Kansas City? Or do you think it's just Bills? Really?
Nope. No? I think they all have a shot against Kansas City. I think Kansas City's the favorite because we saw earlier this year when they were motivated and focused, against Baltimore, they took them apart. Right, and they're still the most dangerous team, but their defense is still vulnerable. They're great with takeaways, but if you can protect the ball and move the ball on them like the Ravens have before, they've got a shot. Now the Chiefs have owned the Ravens, right? I'm sure the Ravens are sick of losing to them, but I think Tennessee's got an opportunity. We saw last year the Titans had them on the ropes, but just Mahomes and the magic he was able to pull out, that's there. And then the Steelers, with all those receivers that they have, they can put up points on this Chiefs defense, and that defense can get pressure on Mahomes. So we've seen this year, teams have come up with some creative strategies to put pressure on Mahomes, and he's not been as dynamic consistently because of that. But again, I think the Chiefs are going to be dialed in. The bye week, for them to get refreshed mentally and physically, is going to do them wonders.
And flipping over the NFC, so the first NFC game this week, Saturday. The middle game is the Rams and the Seahawks. If Goff doesn't play, do you think there's still a chance of an upset?
There could be, because the Rams defense, they're fantastic at takeaways. They have made Russell Wilson's life hell. Think about the first time they played this season. The Rams offense wasn't great, but they sacked Russell Wilson 6 times. I think they got 2 or 3 picks off of him. And so the house calls, it seems like every week Troy Hill or Darius Williams or one of these guys is making a pick 6, or they're getting a scoop and score. So I think that's what they're going to have to do anyway, because even with Jared Goff, the Rams are not scoring touchdowns. They're kicking field goals. That's a problem. I like the Seahawks in this game because of Russell Wilson, because of the way their defense is playing. But if John Wolford plays, now he plays more like Russell Wilson. He's outside the pocket. He's moving. He's not afraid to tuck it. That takes the Jamal Adams blitzer kind of out of the picture. That makes him more of an outside linebacker, set the edge, cover the edge type of guy, instead of coming off the edge and getting Jared Goff out of the pocket. So I think, again, the Rams will be better with Jared Goff typically, But I think it's going to be Wolford because, look, the Rams play under center more than 50% of the time. If Jared Goff can't take snaps from under center and they try to go shotgun, that takes a lot of what the Rams like to do out of the picture, and it makes them easier to defend.
And then flipping over to the night game, you've got the Washington football team and the Tampa Bay Bucks. What are you expecting? Because the line keeps moving, and we don't know how Alex Smith's health is. And Brady apparently he's struggled this year when it's past his bedtime because this one's on at 8:15 Eastern. What are you expecting in this matchup?
This is the one game I think that can get sideways this weekend. Look, Washington's going to have problems scoring. If they're talking about Taylor Heineke or rotating the two, or if you're a marginalized Alex Smith, they have problems scoring anyway. And the Buccaneers do not, even against a good defense like this. So I think if Washington falls behind early, and you better believe Bruce Arians is stressing, you put some points on the board, let's get up 10 within the first quarter and a half, it's going to be a very hard time for Washington and that great defensive front to put up enough points to compete with Tampa Bay. So this whole Tom Brady plan, like, come on, this is the GOAT. Throw all that garbage out the window. These are storylines that are being manufactured. Yes, the data may say this or that. It's the postseason Tom Brady. So let's go ahead and kick all that trash down the curb where it belongs, and let's let them get rolling here. Because again, I think this is one where the Bucks could win by double-digit points here.
What is a point total for the Bucks that once they reach that, you think the game's out of reach for Washington?
Well, I mean, point total, point differential are different. So, look, I think once the Bucks get 17, and let's say they're up 17-7, it's over. Point differential more than points scored.
Interesting. That's wild. What percent chance do you think Washington has? Because they're going into it. They got a gift on Sunday night. Do you foresee any situation, barring catastrophic injury, that Washington ends up going to the next round?
Yeah, I mean, just like they said in Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance. That's the percentage point, my friend.
We'll see. That's unbelievable. And then, so what are some of the storylines you think people aren't talking about now that are on the back of your mind going into these games this weekend?
Well, I mean, some of the big storylines, of course, like we talked about the quarterback situation with the Rams going in. I think in the NFC, I think the Saints-Bears game could be interesting. Fortunately for the Saints, it's indoors, but that Bears defense is going to put some heat on Breeze, and so Alvin Kamara is going to be a real big factor in this game. Michael Thomas coming back, so I want to see Breeze under these circumstances because this is his last go round. So some of those storylines, and if the Bears can run on him, because everyone's talking about how Mitchell Trubisky's played well. He's played well because David Montgomery's been running the hell out of the ball. I mean, he's averaging like 130 yards. 115 yards rushing over the last 3 or 4 games. And that's what the Bears have working for them. Now, they have not played a defense like the Saints. So if they can't run, this game here could get lopsided as well. In the AFC, again, this Bills-Colts game is going to be fantastic to me. And if it's a game where the Colts can run the ball and they're not going to ask Phillip Rivers to do a lot, they've got an opportunity. But if that Bills defense can slow down Taylor, in that Colts run game, and just put on Phillip Rivers, then the Bills have a really, really good opportunity here.
Which of these two quarterbacks do you foresee a bigger chance of them returning next year, Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers?
Phillip Rivers. I think this is it for Brees. And Sean Payton, he was on our Huddle and Flow podcast. He made it abundantly clear this is it for Drew.
Interesting. And then with the Packers, I was listening to an interview with John Kuhn yesterday. He said this is the best Packers team he's seen in years. Do you think do you see anybody taking them down, or do you think they've got it made to the Super Bowl?
I mean, they could get taken down. It all depends on matchups, but if the Saints had home field, I would say the Saints would be the team most likely. But the fact that the Saints, an indoor team, would have to go to Lambeau, that does not really work in their favor. I think the Seahawks match up well. But can they score enough? Because with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and now that run game, what they're doing, but losing David Bakhtiari, that's a huge blow, man. That guy's a hell of a left tackle. That hurts their run game, and that hurts their passing game. And you better believe whoever plays them is going to load up on them. So as of right now, I like the Packers, but that's something to watch But Aaron Rodgers he's just doing it right now. He's the MVP.
Yeah. And then flipping over, so you hosted the Hall of Fame finalist show the other night on NFL Network. I saw you had Charles Woodson on your Huddle and Flow. Definitely people go check that out. Who do you think is the biggest wild card to get into Canton this year?
Calvin Johnson. As much as it seems like it's a slam dunk because he was such a dominating player, had the physical traits, there are people who are saying, he didn't necessarily play enough. Or Torrey Holt or Reggie Wayne have waited a little bit longer. It's always weird with wide receivers. It is a weird bet. I think the other wild card is Jared Allen because he's absolutely deserving to go in the Hall. But look, Peyton Manning, to me, is an automatic. Charles Woodson's an automatic. Could they put in 4 first ballot guys, and that's including Megatron and Jared Allen? Nobody, I don't think, would have a problem with that. That is 4 deserving guys. But to not put in a Tony Boselli or maybe a Richard Seymour or someone like that might have some people like or Torrey Holt, but I think Jared Allen and Megatron, 2 first ballot guys, will be the bigger discussions going in with those 48 selectors.
And then for Leroy Butler, who's a prior guest of this show, does he have any shot this year? You think he's got a shot this year?
It'd be tough. It'd be tough. It'd be tough. But what's crazy is safeties have been going in off the board. I mean, for years, no safeties were going in, and now safeties were going off the board. I think where Leroy also gets hurt is John Lynch now has been waiting for 8 years. And if they're going to put in a safety, I think Lynch would go in before him. And you've got Charles Woodson who's definitely going to go in. And I think if another DB goes in, it would be Rondé Barber ahead of both of those guys.
Interesting. And then for your podcast, Huddle and Flow, how did it kind of come together? Can you talk about some of the guests you've had and kind of what's on the mend?
Yeah, look, it's been a star-studded alignment. It came together. Jim Trotter, my co-host, and I, we approached the NFL Network about doing it 2 years ago, got laughed out of the room. And then the summer, I think with all the stuff that happened in light of George Floyd and the social justice, they're like, let's revisit this because the premise of what these guys are trying to do really rings a little bit louder. Even though it rang loud then, it rings a little bit louder now. And it's great. We've had people on from Soledad O'Brien and Jamel Hill and Kerry Champion to Sean Payton to Charles Woodson, Anquan Bolden, Larry Fitzgerald. We've had Patrick Mahomes on. We have had Michael Vick on. It is a star-studded A-list row that's going to keep continuing as we go through the playoffs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's really all the questions I really do have for you. How can people follow you on social media if they're not already doing it?
Hit me up at Wyche, W-Y-C-H-E, and the number 89. Wyche89 on Twitter and Instagram, and that's where I am.